Oh, there we go.
There we go.
It's a very
Right.
satisfying sound.
There we go. Right. We're good to go. Tatton, over to you.
Okay, so just quickly through this, we're going to build on recent examples. Whenever I speak to politics teachers, they say that what simple politics can help them with is recent examples. So I'm going to go through a few of them and actually strip it back to show you that it doesn't need to be as complex as maybe it's made out to be. And then Leo's going to step in and talk all about how to integrate them properly into your paragraphs. Honestly, if you go through good paragraph, good paragraph, good paragraph, you're just going to get all the marks. And that's going to sort you right out. So, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. So let's just start with a quick question. What's happened this week? I mean, it's only Tuesday. Between Monday and today, what has happened that you could speak about? You could, when you're in the example Thursday morning. Bung them in the comments, and we'll see what we get. What's happened this week? Come on, commenters. We know you've got something.
I mean,
I
feel like HS2 has been the big thing for me.
I mean, it has
just because I'm envious of like high-speed Italian trains, and we've just got the slowest services ever.
A 30-year project. It was announced in 2009. We're not going to get trains till 2039.
Imagine how long it's going to be by then.
And they're not going to run out of Euston until 2043. 2043 isn't even a year. So what have we got? We got leadership. Lots of people talk about leadership. Kieran Barker says local elections, but come on, Kieran, that wasn't this week. Because yeah, absolutely, we can talk about those, and we can talk about electoral systems and representation. But I mean, Daniel's bang on with Swinney was elected today. Is there anything else, Roberta, in there?
New maternity minster.
Yes, that's
from Hannah.
That's from Hannah.
Hannah C.
Hannah C. Give yourself a. I don't know. Just be pleased, Hannah C. The new maternity advisor today, Michelle Walsh, is a huge moment for maternity services in the UK. We have someone specific for the first time ever to champion those women's issues, that maternity side of things. The government was criticised, and we're going to talk about pressure groups. The government was criticised by Jess Phillips at the end of last week after she stepped down that they weren't doing enough about women and girls, specifically violence against women and girls. And then this week, we suddenly get a maternity advisor. Is that coincidence, or is it not? Cressida says a small business protections bill passed today. I'm not sure that is quite the case. No bills have passed yet since the King's speech, which was only last week. But they might be starting it off next time. Right. Okay. Let's crack on. Let's crack on with the meat and potatoes.
Okay.
So this is where we come to the examples you're going to use. And the good news is that in 2026, we are at a time of generational change. Things are in flux in a way that they haven't been since forever. Certainly since I've been doing civil politics for 11 years. We have huge conversations right now. I've listed a few of them here. Ban on social media, votes at 16, Lord's reform, assisted dying, universalism, Brexit. Any one of these, you can study and take that into the exam. And there's so much to talk about that it's going to have an impact on political parties and electoral systems and democracy and participation and voting behavior. It's all together just in one thing. You don't have to learn all of the different ones. Just focus on 1, 2 of these, and you're going to get all the examples you need if you rinse them properly. So I'm going to go really quickly through just elements of the ban on social media, right? And then we're going to have a play with what else we could do with these topics. So bear with, because it's going to get a little bit technical for a moment. Right. At the risk of sounding Chris Whitty. Next slide, please. Social media. The ban on social media is absolutely fascinating. Social media for under 16s, and also at the same time talk about somehow regulating the online space, which is particularly difficult when it's the Wild West out there. And the online space is very hard to regulate. And Lisa Nandy, I mean, this is speaking on Bloomberg. She comes out and she says, we're not doing as a country enough to keep children and young people safe. She says that, and then nothing happens. The House of Lords have voted on a social media ban several times. I think it was 4 times in the end, and the government took it out. But the government also voted, the Labour Party in the House of Commons voted against it as a measure, as an opposition day measure. So when we're talking about Parliament and political parties and the way they work, the opposition forced a vote, and the Labour MPs voted against it. So Lisa Nandy, we are not doing as a country enough to keep children and young people safe. And yet in the House of Commons, they're voting against acting now. And then I got to include Esther Gay, because she's been, if we're talking about pressure groups, she has been incredibly effective. She's the mother of Brianna Gay, who was murdered, you may remember. And she wants to have whole separate phones for under 16s. Just a phone that doesn't, I guess a brick phone, but just that doesn't have the other things, and just say you can't have one. You can't buy one if you're 16 or under. I think you can understand where her hurt and her passion comes from. So let's dig down a little bit deeper into. I just wanted to stare into the depths of this and show how it maps out onto everything. So I've just taken democracy and participation. So next slide, please. Right. So 1.1 is representative democracy. We know that 75% of the public supports a ban on social media for under 16s. 75% of the public don't agree on anything, right? What does 75% of the public agree on? Except for this. But MPs have not voted for it. So you have a disconnect between what people want and what the MPs are voting for. And there's been no opportunities for direct involvement of the public. There is a consultation, which could be seen as representation, but actually we've seen that consultations come and go and the government don't really listen to them. The government put out a white paper or a green paper and they say, we're going to do this. And then they say, oh, we're going to consult it. But they've already made up their minds. And then when we're talking about franchise and debates over suffrage, there's a really interesting piece of work to be done, because banning social media for under 16s and then allowing 16-year-olds to vote means they haven't got the experience. Which, how are they possibly going to learn to navigate the social media world that they're going to be hit like a tsunami of advertising, of other of ways of, impartial fake news, all of that you as an A-level politics student, you are all over. But a 16-year-old opening social media for the first time ever would struggle. So voting is impacted by social media. And then we've got 1.3, which is about pressure groups and other influencers. So we're talking about Esther Gay is an outsider pressure person. I mean, she speaks for a pressure group, and just very effective. Like the headline, grieving mums ask how many more kids will die before social media ban. Like, that was last month. That's pretty full on. And MPs see that. So this isn't dark suits. There are plenty of men in dark suits campaigning against a ban on social media, against regulation. But you also get kind of more insider groups campaigning for it. Like I've got it here, the Five Rights Foundation is a pressure group campaigning for regulation. And so Baroness Kidron, who was in the Science, Innovation, Technology Committee, she had access to, so she went to the select committee and told them they've got to do it. You'll notice that she's Baroness Kidron. So she's in the House of Lords already, and she has access to the House of Commons Select Committee. So this is where insider stuff is going on, you know, outsider and insider. And then 1.4 rights in context. What on earth is our human right about information, about connection, about humanity? Is this advancing human rights and strengthening democracy? What's it doing? So you get into some pretty deep questions at that point. Now, I'm going to stop talking at you. You'll be pleased to know, because I just pulled out those four to demonstrate. I've got the curriculum here to demonstrate the first four, right? I could go on. Trust me, ask my old students. I could go on. But the point is, you take these big topics and you squeeze them and you know them and you use that example all the way through, and then you don't need to have hundreds of different things swimming around in your head. So we're going to prove it, Roberta, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Hannah, already. Hannah C, was it?
Yeah, Hannah C.
Hannah C, give me a number between 1 and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1 and 12. Come on, Hannah C. 1 and 12, let's go. 8. Hannah C has gone 8, so we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to go with UK political parties in context, and we're going to choose one of these topics. One of these topics. Oh, there we go. Right. So, Cressida off of the Small Business Protections Bill. Give us number 2, 1, and 5.
3.
Oh, you came on The Voice. I enjoyed that. Thank you, Cressida. 3. So we're going to go with assisted dying, right? Assisted dying is one of the biggest questions we face as a nation right now. How are we going to talk about UK political parties in context at the when we're using assisted dying? That is the challenge. That is your task. You're going to write in the chat right now what you could talk about for assisted dying if you're writing an essay about UK political parties in context. We're talking about multi-party system. We're talking about factors that affect party success. Dominic, straight in there. What's Dominic say, Roberta?
Non-whipped vote and many MPs vote for constituents, and then representation of electorate.
How do they represent the electorate? It's tricky, isn't it? Because if an MP is voting on their own moral compass rather than a manifesto promise, I mean, Dominic's absolutely right with non-whipped vote. But how does that, if my MP really cares about something, is that more or less representative? If I voted for them because they were Labour, Evie, salience, it's just such a great word. Roberta, while I've been rabbiting on, what else has come through?
So we've got Ewan with pressure groups influence on major parties. Samantha with vote of conscience.
Mm-hmm.
Freddie with it was free vote, so no whips used. Starmer opposed before being in favour. Health Sec voted against. We've got Habiba with assisted dying bill. Labour delaying or ignoring the bill. this could be different with other parties in power.
I think that's really nice, Habiba. We're really beginning to drill in towards this political parties in context, a multi-party system. What's that going to be? What's that going to mean? So we're talking about how does a multi-party system reflect itself through a non-whipped private members bill. It's absolutely right, Fred. It's not in any manifesto. Would it be in a manifesto today? Would a party say, we'll bring back the bill as a free vote? It was a ballot bill, Samantha. And then we talk about party success, because people see what they want. People see parties and party stances towards these questions, and then it means something, because a lot of people care very much about whether it's okay to help someone die. I mean, what a huge question. So right, let's do one more. We're going to do one more, because the point is, any of these can do any of these. Any of these can be done by any of these. So we're going to do one more. Who said something? Roberta, who said something interesting?
Samantha.
Samantha, give us numbers between 1 and 12. That's not 8. It's 6 from Samantha, which is political parties still. Established political parties. And let's go with a number between 1 and 5 that's not 3. Cresta, you did it so well last time.
1.
1. Votes at 16. What do votes at 16 tell us about established political parties? And I'm just going to read out what the curriculum says here. So we're talking about the origins and historical development of the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, and the Liberal Democrats, and how they shaped their ideas and current policies on the economy, law and order, welfare, and foreign affairs. What do votes at 16 tell us about those political parties? In the comments, let's go. Let's go. Boost their votes. Oh, gerrymandering accusations from Finn. That's really interesting. Labour attracting younger voters. I'm reading them out, but that's Roberta's job. Tell me.
No, that's fine. So Freddie's in there with Conservatives do not want, oh, it's moving. Do not want any constitutional change, and also do not gain low voter age. Rachel says Labour thinks it will get the votes of young people. Hannah says Labour want votes at 16 as they get more of the youth vote. Opposition from Conservatives. Lots of people saying the Conservative Party might not do so well. That's Anna. Kieran saying you think that Conservatives would be against it theoretically as they're more focused on the older population. Kitty echoing what others have said. So Labour typically has younger support, so lowering the age to 16 would increase their support. Dylan saying... Yeah,
Roberta,
sorry, go on.
I think they're being a very cynical bunch. I think that Labour were partly set up to extend the franchise about working men and the Fabian Society and all of that stuff. And the Conservatives don't believe in change. The Conservatives believe that you become an adult. I mean, they're literally called the Conservatives. They want to conserve stuff, like jam is conserve, right? So they want to keep the rules. It's not just because Labour would get more young votes. I mean, they've just lost them all to the Greens anyway. No, Amelia, it is happening. It is happening, and the bill will be coming through in time for the 2029 general election. So it doesn't need to be in this term. It is coming. Unlike boost party membership, yes. You see? We've just chosen any one of these at random, and we've chosen any 2 of these. I mean, between Cressida chose 2 within the political parties, which is quite dull of you, Cressida. So I think you need to have a word. But we could have chosen any of these and rinsed them. And that's, if I've taught you one thing in the 20 minutes I've been on, I want you to think about rinsing one thing rather than knowing lots of things at a shallow level. And then when you know that topic backwards, You're going to build it into your paragraphs in exactly the way that Leo's going to show you now.
Awesome. Hope
I'm
we're
going
all
to
nice
disappear
fired up
until
after that.
questions.
Say that again.
I'm going to disappear until questions. Thank you very much, everyone. I shall be back if I work out how to do that.
Fabulous. Right.
Bye.
I hope that's fired everyone up in terms of getting our examples together. It's really cool how Tatton's just showed us how we can take one fairly big topic and condense it down into lots of different areas of the course. And so what I'm going to take you through for the next 20 minutes or so before we do Q&A is how you then take that passion and what we've been chatting about in the comments and put that into your essays in just under 2 days' time. So I will always advocate for the piece method, which is the best method in my eyes to get these examples in, and how you can use the different examples in your writing. So this is something I'm sure a few of you use. Can you just let me know if any of you use the piece method already in your writing? No, Samantha's not a fan. Phoenix does, Kitty does, Ewan, Amelia, and history. Awesome. The PCAV, PAL, sort of wing it here, and that's also fine. 3D for introduction, Leanne, absolutely. So what we're going to be looking for here is introducing things with our points. So you give your point, you theme out the question. So if it's asking you about the influence of social media, like we were talking about earlier, you theme that out, break it into 3. So focus on one arguable claim per paragraph. And then it's the E is where this magic comes in. You give the example with accurate detail. We're not looking for you to just drop something randomly. We're going to be looking at dates, figures, outcomes, numbers, statistics, people is what's really important. Freddie, this is very relevant to AQA, very, very relevant because you're also going to be analysing and evaluating. So stick with us, Freddie. This is the right stuff. So you give your evidence, you take your votes at 16, you take your social media, you take assisted dying, whatever the example that we're looking at is, and you give it in there. You don't want to go too vague. You want to make sure that you've got the dates, the figures, the people, the outcomes, etc. What's really important from there is that you analyze it and you explain why that example proves your point. What you've done with P and E is what we call AO1, is you're describing what's happened. What's really important to get the higher marks in these evaluative questions is to say why. You've done the what, we move on to the why. Why does lowering the voting age to 16 increase the legitimacy of results? Why does banning social media reduce the democratization of the results of an election, for example? So you've given the what, you've given the why. The evaluative magic comes in the C, which is the counter argument. You give an alternate perspective. You say what someone else might believe. It might be what you believe, and you're just playing devil's advocate. But you need to make sure that you're giving the alternate perspective. This is the bit of magic that unlocks the level 4, level 5. So if you're looking for kind of 20 plus marks, you've got to give your counter arguments. Someone, it was at Lola Jean, said that they do PEAC brackets EA. Within the counter argument, you want to be giving evidence and you want to be analysing as well, just to make sure you're bulking up to a level 5. The magic of it at the end then is making sure that you evaluate, you return explicitly to the wording of the question. You want to say, therefore, this supports the view that. As a result, it is clear that. The source, therefore, states that. So you can use this in all the 30 markers that you're going to be doing on Thursday. And this is a really useful structure to follow. I know most of us in the comments are using pretty much the same, if not slightly different techniques. So this is a really, really useful strategy to use. So if you don't know piece yet, I'd get this written down and I'd get this memorized in your brain ready for Thursday. So we want specificity. We don't want to be vague. We don't want just name dropping. So what we don't want is something like, in a recent election, first past the post produced a disproportionate result. That is true, not the whole story. So what we want is something like, in the 2024 general election, Labour won 63% of the seats on just 33.7% of the vote. This is a seats to vote ratio that critics argue fundamentally misrepresents the electorate. So what's great about this is we give a named election with a year, 2024. We give a precise seat conversion. We give a vote share. We analytically phrase the connection of the argument from the example. We're not just saying Labour won this many seats and this many votes. That's true, but that's describing. What we want to do is explain. Okay, so that's taking it from step 1 to step 2, describing, explaining, evaluating. So specificity, accuracy earns marks. If you do the vague example here, you might get a mark or 2. You're not going to get the marks that you're going to be aiming for with these exams. Okay, some of the common mistakes then that we want to be avoiding. First one, in recent years. That's a meaningless sentence starter, because in recent years could mean in the last 2 years, could mean in the last 50 years. It depends on what you're talking about. We want a specific year and a specific event. If you don't have a date, if you don't have specificity, the person marking your exam can't verify it, can't make sure that in recent years Labour won a majority. Could be talking about 2024, could be talking about 2001. So you need to be nice and specific. The government did this because. How do we know the government did this because of some reason? That asserts motivation without evidence. So you want to be quoting a minister, a white paper, the assisted dying bill, the representation of the people bill, which is the votes at 16 one, a manifesto commitment. That's what's really important. Also, just simply listing examples back to back. If you just talk about votes at 16 here and the discussion over compulsory voting here and this argument here and this argument here, that's describing. And what the question's asking you to do is evaluate, or for AQA, analyze and evaluate. That's breadth without depth. It reads like a list. You're just saying and almost regurgitating everything you know about something without putting it into the perspective of an argument. So we don't want to list things. We want one strong example that beats 3 throwaway ones. And that's why what Tatton was just saying about having an example you can squeeze out like a sponge is really important, because you can dive deep into it, pick it out, parts of it. That's what's really, really important. And finally, repeating the same example in every single paragraph. We want to make sure that we've got 2 or 3 good examples per topic that cover different angles. It looks a little bit narrow if you're just looking at one thing throughout the essay, because it might as well be looking to evaluate that specific example. That's not what the question's asking you to do. What it's asking you to do is use your theoretical knowledge, what you've covered over the past 2 years, what you've worked so hard towards, give examples to add to it. So that's the really, really important thing. Okay. So signposting your evidence is also a really important thing. So don't just drop something out of nowhere. A really easy way to pick up marks is to give these sentence starters or these introductions to the different elements. So whether you're introducing evidence, which is our AO1, you're analyzing it, which is our AO2, or you're giving a counter and evaluation, which is our AO3, having these sorts of sentence starters are really, really useful. So if you're introducing evidence, don't just say in 2024, blah, 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 blah. Say this is illustrated by, or a clear example of this occurred in 2024 when, or evidence for this can be found in this year, or this example, or this law. Okay, so signpost it, show the examiner nice and clearly, because remember, they've got to mark hundreds of question papers over the course of the next few months before results day. So you want to make it nice and easy for them to identify where the great bits of your argument are. Same goes for analyzing it. Analysis is the saying why. So you want to say things like this demonstrates that, or this is significant because, or this matters in the context of the question. This supports the argument that. These sentence starters are like gold dust. Finally, when you're giving your counter argument and evaluating, you want to be crystal clear and say it could be argued that this, or an alternate perspective is offered by this, or when you're coming to your final evaluation, when you link to the end of your paragraph and you say ultimately, while side A is true, side B is stronger because. Don't just drop it, say why. Always, 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 when you're writing your essays, think, have I said why? So how can this look in practice? Let's say we get a nice question on Thursday that says something like, evaluate the view that social media influences election results. Pretty niche, pretty narrow question, but we can work with it. So have a look through the weak paragraph, have a look through the strong paragraph, and then I want you to pop in the chat when you've had a read through what it does well beyond the ticks and crosses I've put on the screen. So what's really good about the strong paragraph, what's really bad about the weak paragraph. Remembering these are just excerpts of them, not the whole paragraph itself. What would we improve? What's good? What's bad? What's really ugly? I'll give you just a minute or two to have a read through of them. So Finn, absolutely clear signposted sentences. We know exactly where the different assessment objectives are coming in. Tanvi, it's not a full paragraph. It's just an excerpt of it. I didn't want to give you a full paragraph to read on one slideshow because it might have been a bit too small, but this for an element of the paragraph for giving that evidence. All of this is about giving the evidence. Yeah, Dylan, lots of people use it. Is not good enough. We need a bit more specificity. Who are those people? How many of them? Recent examples fully explained. 2024 is a great example of lots of different areas. Lola Jean, immediately direct to the area of debate. It's got a strong counter, maybe look into implications to further the paragraph. Absolutely. What else we've got? Leanne, politicians post things online and people see them is way too vague and a politician has not been named. Absolutely. That's not good enough. So we're going to be aiming for the stuff in the green paragraph. Lot of statistics, Habiba, absolutely. Lots of numbers, statistics. We know, we lived through this general election. We know what happened. Freddie, recent years, which years? Exactly. Don't put recent years in your answer. Fully explain examples with evidence. Evidence with analytical points to link it back to the question, Amelia. Definitely. Freddie, important for what types of campaigns we can bring pressure groups into this or parties. You can bring any, as long as it's relevant to the question, that's all that matters. We want to make sure. Hannah C, there's no link at the end of it, a clear view at the end of it, because this is the evidence part. So this is just the evidence part. We're not looking at the evaluation. As I say, I didn't want to put an enormous paragraph on screen for you, but at the end you would link back to the question. That's your E, or evaluate. Okay, so this is a demonstration of how we get that evidence in there. So I think we can all agree the difference between the weak and the strong is quite clear. We're going more so away from lots of people see these posts in recent years. Some people think it can change. To in 2024, this happened. They had this many followers. We give a named politician, Nigel Farage. First past the post system is introduced, and then we can explain it further. Okay. Habiba, in an exam, can you say around a statistic if you're not sure of the exact number? You can round things up. So if you didn't know that the Labour Party got 33.7% of the vote in 2024, you could say roughly 34%, as long as you're not saying quite a lot of votes or a fair few votes or between 30 and 40%. You want to be kind of in the ballpark range, but if you can't remember it to a decimal place or two, that's absolutely fine. Okay. Hopefully that's helped to show you how you embed those examples into the paragraphs. Okay. If we want to link other recent examples to topics as well, and how we can use them, we can break this down even further. So in terms of participation, we've got the figures from the elections 2 weeks ago that are really helpful. So only 30% of people turned out in England. 53% of people turned out in the Scottish election, which was down 10%, but 52%, up 5, turned out in Wales. In terms of the franchise, we've got that representation of the people bill, which is going through Parliament and is going to be passed by 2029, as Tatton mentioned earlier. Pressure groups, really, really important topic. The RMT union called off the tube strikes yesterday, so that's a really topical example to have. In terms of political parties, the Conservatives are looking like they're moving to the new right, away from one nation, by scrapping stamp duty, having a much stronger immigration stance. The rise of the Green Party, coming second in the English local elections, Reform winning 1,400 council seats 2 weeks ago. Electoral systems, Wales moved from the AMS to the party list system. There's implications in Scotland from the additional member system as well. In terms of voting behaviour, the governing competency, Labour lost over 50% of their council seats, and most people in polls have said this is due to a lack of faith in Keir Starmer's government, which has paved the way for Andy Burnham and Wes Streeting to get back in the conversation. And finally, the influence of the media. Zach Polanski's done interviews on The Rest is Politics, other podcasts talking directly to voters. So how does the media influence voting behaviour? There's a great example there. Finally, Reform UK have got over 500,000 followers, which isn't quite the Simple Politics following on Instagram, but it's a strong start. But 500,000 direct followers there from Reform UK. So these are some other examples and bits that you can add in here. Okay, that brings me to the end of my section on exam technique. So if you have any questions, I'll pass back over to Tatton and Roberta in a second, but any questions on the examples we mentioned earlier, on the exam technique or anything that we can help with before Thursday, now's the time to go.
Yes, it's question time. I gotta say, Leo, that was absolutely banging. I like what I spend a lot of time talking about as a politics teacher is those topic sentences. If you start a paragraph really strong, right, then the rest falls into place because you go, bang, this is it. This is the point I'm making. And then you just make that point. And it doesn't matter what point you're making, particularly. You just make the point and then you prove it. And then you go, look, I've proved it.
Indeed. Claudia, I'm going to move back to this slide for you now, just so that you can get those down if you're noting them down. But for everyone else, we'll have the Q&A open now. So over to you guys.
Roberta, if you pick some questions out.
Of course. So I'll just start with a question, kind of a view from Hannah C. She says that neither paragraph seems to have a clear view at the end of it. Maybe that's one for Leo to address.
Yeah. So the paragraph that I showed you was just how to embed the examples into it rather than the full paragraph. So obviously at the end of that, you'd add on your kind of clear view, but this was just the section for putting the examples in. So how you'd embed them through. So moving away from the vagueness of kind of recent years and those sorts of phrases to the specificity of the numbers in the years.
Thank you. And then Samantha and Dewar have questions about local election results. They say Green, the question whether Green came second in the local elections, they thought that Labour and Lib Dems got more council seats.
I phrased this horrifically on the slide. The Green came second in vote share. So in terms of the number of votes they got, rather than the number of seats they gained, that's where they came second. So the people are obviously flocking to the Green Party greater than they have done before. That's where they came second in terms of the vote share.
Perfect. And Habiba asks, what does detail look like in an essay and how do you ensure you've got enough detail?
I just like Leo's the man on this, but what I would say is just prove your point. You make your point in the first sentence, and when you've proved it, get out of there and make another point. Right? Don't prove it again and again and again and again and again. Make it, prove it, show you've proved it. Do it again. Leo.
Yeah, definitely. Remember, guys, that you've got about 45 minutes to be writing these 30 markers and about 40 minutes for AQA for writing the 25 markers. You're not expected to write absolutely everything you know about a topic because that's just not doable. So what you want to do is have a good solid example that's got some years, names, those sorts of things in it. You want to avoid the vagueness, but you don't want to be putting example after example after example, because that's not what the examiner wants to see. They want to be seeing you give a solid, crystal clear example and then using that to analyze and evaluate. The explanations and the evaluation is the name of the game rather than just giving endless examples, because that's more descriptive than analytical. So make sure, as Tatton said, give your example, give it some good detail, and then your focus should be on making new points and evaluating them.
Perfect. Before I move on to the next question, I just add as well, when I was doing my A-levels, and it's a bit like how SP approaches detail in news, just make it as succinct as possible without adding fluff to the answers, like lots of filler words, avoid those, try and write things as succinctly as possible, and then you can use the amount of time to your advantage. That's just probably something I'd add, because I'm used to adding filler words to things.
Don't try to sound clever. Right? Don't try to sound posh. Don't try to sound anything. Just make your point and prove it. Get in, get out, make another paragraph.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And then Phoenix has a question. So the pressure group example with calling off strikes, what is that representing, or how would they include that in their example?
Well, that's the union as a pressure group. The union are representing their workers, and it's about a 4-day week that they're doing, and there was enough. They've pushed the issue, and the government's made a small concession to them, or the London Assembly has made a small concession to them. Sadiq Khan's made a small concession to them, so they've called off these ones, but they've kept the pressure up, and that's what a pressure group is all about. Pressure, right? Literally says it in the title. And they've kept the pressure up by cancelling this one, but moving the next one forward. So there was this one this week, and then there was one in July or something, and now that's come to June. So this one fine, but the next one's coming right up to keep that pressure on, because tube strikes cost London money. They cost the whole UK economy money. And when you've got that tool in your back pocket, that's some serious pressure you can bring.
Yeah, the link to the essays would be if you're looking at pressure group methods and how they work, or insider versus outsider groups as an example. So you want to be saying, as Tatton's mentioned, the pressure that they put on the government by threatening strike action. It's something that an insider group can do really, really well, because the negotiations have obviously broken down where they've got more strikes coming in. So if you're looking at pressure groups, look at how much an insider or an outsider is able to put on them, particularly from the R&T union, who are very effective at that.
I think unions are really interesting, because you look at the bin strikes in Birmingham, and they've been going on for a year, and it's just not being effective because they're asking for something that the council don't have in terms of money, and the council so that it doesn't always work, and they're embedded and entrenched, and it gets very, very messy.
Thank you both. Now moving on to Zara. She asked, how many paragraphs would you aim for if they're all really detailed?
You're aiming for 3. 3 is your target. So 3 with your 3-piece paragraph with your point and your counterpoint in them is your target. So in 45 minutes, if you want to take about 5 minutes for an introduction and 5 minutes for a conclusion, you've got about 12 minutes per paragraph. It's definitely doable. Just make sure that you've got every element. You need to tick off mentally, or make a note at the top of the page. Have you got points, evidence, analysis, counter arguments, and evaluation in all of those? So 3 is your target.
And that's something, listen, it's Thursday morning, isn't it? It's Tuesday night now, Tuesday evening now. The exam's Thursday morning. So I would suggest don't do full papers at this point. Just do like 12-minute timer, write a paragraph. Look it up. Just 12 minutes at a time, nice and gentle, nice and easy. You've really got this. I mean, at this stage, you know what you're doing. So just practicing that time is really useful, because the number of students who come out of exams say, oh, I ran out of time. And I just say to them, what? Why did you do that? We've talked about the timings all year long. Why have you run out of time? Don't run out of time. Practice a 12-minute paragraph.
That's great advice. Really good advice. And on to Leanne. Should we balance old and new examples, or stick to as many new ones as we can?
I would always prioritize new ones. If you show to an examiner that you are literally up to the week or up to the day updated, then that shows that you're really engaged and you know your stuff. Sometimes an older example works really well. So obviously coalitions, you're going to be going back to 2010, because that's the most recent coalition we've got. So it's about balancing kind of how confident you are with the examples and how nuanced you can be with them, how much detail can you put in them, but also what's the most appropriate one in there. So I'd say try and go new, but if you can't, it's not the end of the world. You've just got to make sure that the detail is there. I
think Michelle Welsh as the new maternity advisor could be a real banger to pull out from literally 2 days before the exam. I think that's got potential.
And just a follow-up question on that, where would our participants find the best resources to study that example?
Well, I mean, for Simple Politics is a great place. We're gonna be writing about that day's events. We get our first post up about 9 a.m. So maybe not on the Thursday, but have a look through this week on there. And then if you want more detail, and you probably do want more detail than we've got on the page, you can click through. I mean, you can Google her name. You can go to the gov.uk presser that they sent out that have all the information that she's doing. So gov.uk news has all the government press releases, so you can just read it from the horse's mouth. And yeah, get to grips with it. It's funny, I said Michelle Welsh is a good one, and she is, but she's not one of the big topics I was talking about earlier. She's just a little bit of flash to have in your pan, but to sit alongside things, because Leo's put the union strikes being called off. That was only yesterday. It's really, politics is happening all the time, all around us, and That is going to be really useful.
Excellent stuff. Now I've got a couple on synoptic links. So Kieran and Dylan. So firstly, Kieran asks, how many synoptic links do you think need to go into a paragraph? He doesn't know if that's just an AQA thing. And then Dylan asks, is he right in thinking that there's no synoptic link to paper 2 needed in this paper? So maybe a couple for Leo.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
Leo.
I'm gonna split this out by exam board. So I'm going to start with Edexcel because the easy option here is for paper 1, there are no synoptic links. So if you're doing Edexcel, which is UK politics and core ideas, no synoptic links needed. Don't worry about them. For AQA, you need synoptic links in your final 25 marker, which is section C, the ones without the extract. So what you want to make sure that you've got is a link to somewhere in American or political ideas in those final essays that you do. We recommend doing 1 per paragraph. So you want to link, if it's something on pressure groups in the UK, link it to interest groups in America, or link it to something in conservatism or nationalism or socialism, for example. You want to be making a link in a paragraph. Don't panic too much about getting a hugely detailed synoptic link in there. It's just an element to show to an examiner, because politics, as Tatan mentioned, is happening all the time, that you've got this good view of politics, not just in the UK, but also in America, and kind of the ideas of it as well. So don't panic about making massive lines and lines and lines of synoptic links. Just give a good nudge to something else in the specification. You need to explain it, but you don't need to go on a massive tangent if you're looking at British pressure groups about what's happening in American interest groups as well. So my advice to you is to have 1 per paragraph that gives that nudge to the other parts of the spec for AQA. For Edexcel, not in this paper.
I think something interesting that Leo's just touched on is this idea that the difference between an A-level and a GCSE is that in A-level, you've got it yourself, you're turned on, you're tuned in, you're seeing what's going on, and you're making your own points. You're not going to go in there and just rabbit away about what your teacher said. And in your GCSE, you can absolutely do that. If you listen really hard in class, you can repeat what your teacher said in the exam, and everyone goes, oh, that's brilliant, well done you. In A-level, it's about you. You are an intelligent young person, and you are in that room to show off how much you know. It's peacocking. It's wonderful. It's glorious, and it's you.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And Daniel asks, can you repeat the sentence starter examples in different paragraphs without being penalised?
I wouldn't. I mean, you know, like as a marker, you're like, oh, come on. Like, sure, you're not going to get penalised. They're not going to go, oh, well, you haven't analysed well enough, so you repeated a certain starter. But you're not showing off how intelligent you are if you just keep using the same. Because it looks like you're just doing the template. It looks like you're repeating rather than being you. There's self-expression in an A-level. That's what you got to do. Show who you are, what you think, and how much you know, and that's when you're going for it. So I don't think you're going to get penalised, but come on.
Yeah, it's the kind of every paragraph, this is significant because, and if everything is significant, then nothing is significant. So if you can vary it and change up one thing being significant, one thing being important, one thing leading to something else, that's the variety we're looking for. If every paragraph is significant because of something, then there's no variety, and therefore you're not evaluating because you're not putting the points in order of kind of how important they are. So definitely try and vary them. It's not something that the exam boards explicitly say gets you discredited, but it's not something that shows to an examiner this is a level 5, very high level 5 worthy answer.
Fabulous. And just a question on timing. Lola Jean asks, how long should she spend on planning the answers?
I'd recommend no more than 5 minutes. So for a source question, your target is to try and read the source, highlight it and plan it in 5 minutes, which can be quite the task, but you just need to get in there and get on and have a go. For the other essays, 5 minutes to plan, think through the arguments you're going to make, do a simple table, pros and cons, match up your arguments together, jot down what examples you'd use, how you'd use them differently. 5 minutes is enough, and then you've got 40 minutes to get going the rest of the essay.
Thanks, Leo. And Tanvi asks a question about the longer questions, so the 30 markers. So Tanvi's teacher mentioned an A-star conclusion method to include a new and an old example to round off the evaluation. Can you explain this in a bit more depth?
It's something I've heard of before. It's not something that's needed. It can add nuance to your evaluation. So nuanced evaluation is kind of going beyond the view that social media influences election results. You're not saying yes or no. You're saying that it's having an increasing role or it's having a decreasing role. So you could use an old and a new example. The important thing is that in your conclusion, you are not introducing new knowledge. You're not introducing new things. You're summing up the debates. So in your introduction, you're defining keywords of the debate. You're discussing the points you're going to make, directing your side of the arguments. For your conclusion, you're summarizing and restating your opinion. So if you're saying that we are moving towards multi-party politics, your examples throughout your essay should have been explaining that already. So it's not, you don't want to be adding anything new in your conclusion.
Fantastic. And there's another question. With a source question, do they take out the information only from the source or add their own examples too? So another kind of examples-based question. Your
point emerges from the source. So if the source is discussing pressure groups and it discusses the influence that lobbying can have as a pressure group method, that can be your point. What you want to do then is introduce your own examples and your own knowledge to supplement that. So the source is where you get the arguments from. So you quote literally your point in your source answer should be a quotation from the source, and then you add your own knowledge to back it up. So you're going beyond the source. That's where they start from. You add your own knowledge to add to it.
Fantastic. And we've got a bit of exam worry in here. So Leanne's worried that they don't know anything about politics when they actually know everything, and they think exam stress is getting to them. And we've got another comment to say, like, what's your advice for tomorrow? Instead of cramming and stressing, what type of revision should they do? So what's the best way to go into Thursday calm and collected?
Well, just be calm and collected is the answer. I mean, you've been doing this for 2 years now, most of you, maybe a year, whatever. Like, honestly, I still don't think I know that much about politics, and I've been making a living out of it for 11 years. You've got it. You've got this. And so, yeah, like a few 12-minute paragraphs, like I said earlier, but rest, like happy, relaxed students do better than tired, stressed, crammy students. My daughter's doing GCSEs right now, and she's like, I got to revise. I was like, no, stop. You've got it. You've got this. You know what you're doing. And also, really, if you don't, then what's a few crammed minutes going to do at this point? So, chill.
Yeah, I think the fact of you being here on this webinar is one thing in itself, and that you're taking things seriously and you know the stuff already. I would agree. Don't cram. The night before the exam is one to just kind of do some light revision, go through some flashcards that you've made, perhaps look over some little bits that you're maybe not too confident on, scroll through the Simple Politics Instagram, scroll through the Study Log Instagram, look at those examples to kind of ease yourself into the next day, get a really good night's sleep, get a good breakfast in you, drink plenty of water, and that will calm you down. I don't think there's any point in doing 5 practice papers the day before a paper, because that's not going to go in. So you want to make sure that you're kind of as calm and collected as you can be before. Do something like make sure that you're up to date with what's going on, and just remember peace.
Thanks so much, both. We've only got a few minutes left, so is it all right if I just do some quick fire just to try and get through as many as we can? Okay, so quick summary of the best structure for core ideas.
Core ideas, again, you're theming out. So if it's asking conservatism on human imperfection, for example, you're theming out the different elements of that, and then you're going to compare 2 strands. So you're going to compare the traditional, the One Nation, or the One Nation, the New Right One, compare them, say whether they agree or disagree more.
Would you recommend essay plans?
Yes, and at this stage, probably a good idea as well. Instead of doing a full practice paper, get an essay topic, look through the arguments you make for and against, so that those 5 minutes at the start of your essay in the actual exam feel a bit more natural to you.
Perfect. Can you quickly explain the source again? Mia says that they're quite bad at source questions, but fine in the freestyle.
Yes, absolutely. So you treat the source question exactly the same as you treat an essay question with the same structure. The only difference is that you've read through the source and your points emerge from the source. So instead of, I'll go back to this slide here. So instead of your theme being one that you've made up yourself or one that you've come up with, it is a point from the source. So it's a quotation directly from the source. So that's what you want to be focusing on here. And then from there, you give your evidence, you analyze it, you give a counter also from the source, and then you evaluate this all together. So it's pretty much the same with reference to the source.
There's a couple of questions on grade boundaries and questions or topics that we're predicting. Have we got anything on that?
First of all, grade boundaries doesn't matter. You're going to get in there, smash it, and then like the grade boundary is going to grade boundary, right? What are we going to do? Oh, it's a high grade boundary, so I'm going to write something different. No, doesn't matter. That's on them. Listen, David Beckham said when he did a free kick, it was perfect every time. His run-up was perfect. His plan was perfect. His leg flew through the air perfectly. Once the ball's left his foot, nothing to do with him. He's done his bit. And that is what you're going to do. Whatever goes on afterwards, the jiggery pokery with all that stuff, don't worry about it. I mean, Leo's got all the brains here. But one thing I just really want to be clear about through these questions is to calm. Leo's all about peace with his paragraphs. We've got to find that peace in your heart in order to succeed. And worrying about grade boundaries is not going to get you anywhere. But Leo does have an idea of what's coming up in the exam.
Leo does have an idea of what's coming up in the exam. So a little treat for you guys for joining us is that you're going to get an email from me in the next hour or so with the recording to this session. And I'm also going to be attaching the study dog predicted papers. So for AQA and Edexcel, we've crawled through everything that's come up over the last few years and everything that hasn't come up in the last few years and put together a predicted paper for you. Remember, we can't guarantee what's going to be coming up, but that should give you an idea of what should or could be coming up based on what has or hasn't in the previous years. So you'll get an email from me in the next hour or so.
Amazing. And just one final thing. We've been asked, are we doing another webinar for paper 2?
Give us your emojis. Do you want one? No, they don't. Oh, Isaac and Finn, a few do. Oh, look, we've got, I don't know what this is. Okay, so probably will. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that after half term?
That'll be after half term. We'll get the dates. So we'll get the dates together. It'll be probably again a couple of days before paper 2, and then we'll send out some details on our socials.
I like the number of S's on Leanne's response. It's just much better than most of them. Ewan gave us an exclamation mark, which is nice. Monday the 8th. Oh, so that's straight after half term, isn't it? Oh no, it's a week, isn't it? We go back at the very beginning of June. So we'd probably do it on Thursday night,
something like that. Yeah, we'll figure that out, and then we will. I also have. So when you get an email from me in an hour, I'll also email you when we firmed up what the time is with a link to book for the next one.
All I would add is that I will just be telling you to calm down and be chill in the next one too. So I wouldn't expect much change from me. Leo's going to smash it, but I'm just going to be like peace and love.
We'll have some other examples for UK government as well, and we should have an idea when Parliament's returned from recess this week as well, what's going on too. So that could be very helpful. So it is 2 minutes past 7, so we've slightly run over, but if that wasn't treats enough for you as well, I know some of you didn't get your questions answered. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be emailing you in the next hour or so. If you haven't had your question answered, I'm going to be active for the next couple of hours. If you want to email me with any of these questions, my email address is hello@studydog.co.uk. I'll be on for the rest of the evening answering some of your questions. And all that's left to say is very, very best of luck for Thursday. Myself, Roberta, and Tat are absolutely rooting for you. We've got every finger and toe crossed that we possibly can.
No, Leo, it's not about luck. They've got it. There's no luck involved. They're all over this. You're amazing, people. Show
Indeed. Indeed. Right. And all that's left to say is thank you ever so much, everyone, for coming along, and we will hopefully see you on the next one.
See you on the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Bye-bye.